everyone, it's Kyla again. So I will be discussing different gender issues that are mentioned and not mentioned in the 6 pertinent documents on gender in the Philippines. So this is under Philippine laws on gender responsive and gender fair education. And these are the 7 criterias: academic programs, administrative concerns, advocacy, gender and research, training programs, access to education, and others. So these criteria will be mentioned in the table. It is the issues mentioned in pertinent documents on gender and education. So this table shows the gender issues mentioned in the 6 pertinent documents on gender in the Philippines, which are the PDPW, PPGD, Women's Edge Plan, MCW, NEDA's Harmonized Gender and Development Guidelines, and CHED's 2015 establishing the policies and guidelines on gender and development in the Commission on Higher Education and Higher Education Institutions. So the first column, right here, it shows the criteria. The second and third column shows the issues mentioned and not mentioned in the different pertinent documents on gender respectively. So the capitalized and bold words are the 6 pertinent documents on gender that mention and did not mention the different issues. So let us first start with the academic programs. So these are the issues mentioned in academic programs. Gender responsiveness in academic programs like gender fair curriculum, elimination of stereotyping in the curricula and the classroom, gender responsive textbooks, and gender fair language. So this issue is mentioned to all. Next, gender sensitive classroom culture is mentioned in the Women Edge Plan and CHED 2015. The addition of women's studies is also mentioned in CHED 2015, and gender-sensitive teaching materials is mentioned to all. Non-sexist character counseling is also mentioned to all. So here are the issues that are not mentioned. Gender-sensitive classroom culture is not mentioned in PDPW, PPGD, NEDA, and MCEW. Addition of women's studies is also not mentioned in PDPW, PPGD, NEDA, MCW, and Women's Edge Plan. For the administrative concerns, the issues mentioned are the following: GAD Focal Point System, which is the monitoring and evaluation of GAD programs and projects, are mentioned in PDPW, PPGD, MCW, Women's Edge Plan, and CHED 2015. GAD Budget and Planning is mentioned in CHED 2015. Mechanisms to address sexual harassment experienced by faculty and students is also mentioned in PDPW, PPGD, NEDA, MCW, Women's Edge Plan. And the issues that are not mentioned are the following: GAD Focal Point System, which is the monitoring and evaluation of GAD programs and projects, is not mentioned in NEDA. GAD Budget and Planning is not mentioned in PDPW, PPGD, NEDA, MCW, and Women's Edge Plan. For advocacy, the issue, which is the call for awareness of gender issues and GAD in all aspects of education, is mentioned in all of the pertinent documents on gender and education. For gender and research, the issues mentioned are distribution and graduation rate of gender per academic program or discipline, which is mentioned in NEDA, MCW, Women's Edge Plan, and CHED 2015. Gender statistics, which is mentioned in NEDA, MCW, Women's Edge Plan, and CHED 2015. Capacity building programs on God, peace, and human rights is also mentioned in MCW, Women's Edge Plan, and CHED 2015. And percentage of women in decision making and their representation in education boards, parent-teacher associations, and teachers' organization is mentioned in NEDA, MCW, and CHED 2015. The issues that are not mentioned are the following: distribution and graduation rate of gender per academic program or discipline is not mentioned in PDPW and PPGD. Gender statistics is also not mentioned in PDPW and PPGD. Capacity building programs on God, peace, and human rights is also not mentioned in PDPW, PPGD, and NEDA. And percentage of women in decision making and their representation in education boards, parent-teacher associations, and teachers' organizations is not mentioned in PDPW, PPGD, and Women's Edge Plan. Another issue that was mentioned in Gender in Research are analysis of gaps in access to education and school performance, which is mentioned in Women's Edge Plan. Underperformance of boys in certain education factors that are also mentioned in Women's Edge Plan. Research on gender responsiveness, gender in extension programs is also mentioned in NEDA, MCW, Women's Edge Plan, and CHED 2015. The issues that are not mentioned are the following: analysis of gaps in access to education and school performance are not mentioned in PDPW, PPGD, NEDA, MCW, and CHED 2015. The underperformance of boys and certain education factors are not mentioned in PDPW, PPGD, NEDA, MCW, and CHED 2015. Research on gender responsiveness, gender in extension programs is also not mentioned in PDPW and PPGD. For training programs, the necessity of gender perspective in teacher training is mentioned to all. For access to education, the elimination of discrimination is mentioned in PDPW, PPGD, MCW, Women's Edge Plan, and CHED 2015. Scholarship for girls from marginalized sectors are mentioned in MCW, Women's Edge Plan, and CHED 2015. And enhanced access of marginalized groups to education is also mentioned in Women's Edge Plan and CHED 2015. The elimination of discrimination is not mentioned in NEDA. Scholarships for girls from marginalized sectors is also not mentioned in PDPW, PPGD, and NEDA. Enhanced access of marginalized groups to education is also not mentioned in PDPW, PPGD, NEDA, and MCW. And lastly, for others, the issue, which are implementation of God Resource Center, is mentioned in CHED 2015. Teen wellness and sexual and reproductive health is mentioned in Women's Edge Plan, and partnership of those involved in education sectors for gender responsiveness is also mentioned in MCW, Women's Edge Plan, and CHED 2015. The implementation of GAD Resource Center is not mentioned in PDPW, PPGD, NEDA, MCW, and Women's Edge Plan. Teen wellness and sexual reproductive health is not mentioned in PDPW, PPGD, NEDA, MCW, CHED 2015. And the partnership of those involved in education sector for gender responsiveness is not also mentioned in PDPW, PPGD, and NEDA. So those were the issues that were mentioned and not mentioned in the 6 pertinent documents on gender in the Philippines. And this is my source for my discussion. Listen to the next discussion, which will be about gender and the development markers in education.